The Steelers are finalizing a deal to make Patrick Graham their new defensive coordinator for the 2026 season. And I'm kind of confused. Why is everybody mad? Am I supposed to be mad? I don't understand all the frustration with this hire whatsoever. I think this is, in fact, the best hire that the Steelers have made so far this offseason, and the bar is low. Let me tell you what. It's been very clear the bar is low, but there's the obvious connection to McCarthy. We all knew that Mike McCarthy was going to bring in somebody that he's familiar with, somebody he has ties to, the Pittsburgh ties, the McCarthy ties. Get used to that. Get ready to see a lot more of that. It's obvious it's going to happen. That happens with a lot of new head coaches. You bring in guys that you're familiar with, but I understand Steelers fans' frustrations with the, bringing in a guy from Pittsburgh. Now McCarthy's going to bring in all his guys. I understand where you're coming from. He served as Mike McCarthy's linebackers coach and defensive run game coordinator back in 2018 during McCarthy's final season in Green Bay. He spent the last couple of seasons in Las Vegas as their defensive coordinator. He's survived 3 head coaching changes. And let's be honest, guys, I know a lot of people are very upset with the fact that the Raiders defense, you don't necessarily think of the Raiders defense and think, wow, that's a really elite group. That is a really good unit, and I should be excited that we're getting their defensive coordinator. Completely understand. But the way I'm looking at it, he's done more with less. And I know that everybody's upset and tired of hearing, oh, he did more with less. That's kind of a cop-out answer. But in the case of Patrick Graham, I really think it's true. He took a couple of guys playing safety like Jeremy Chin and Jamal Adams, some kind of cast-offs, and kind of moved them all around the field playing safety. That was a position the Raiders really had no help at going into next season, and he plugged and played a couple of guys. They made big impacts for them. Devin White was another guy that had been cast off by the Buccaneers, wasn't very good, widely labeled a bust. He had a phenomenal season for Las Vegas, and obviously Max Crosby is awesome. So Patrick Graham truly has done more with less. So the Raiders were 14th in total defense last season, right? And like I said, we don't look at the Raiders and say, oh, they're a phenomenal defense. They're a phenomenal unit. We should all be excited about getting their defensive coordinator. The Steelers were the highest paid defense in the National Football League by far, and they were 26th in total defense. The Raiders defense was simply better as far as total defense goes than the Steelers. Is that not wild to think about? Patrick Graham is absolutely an upgrade from the Steelers offensive coordinator and Terrell Austin. Terrell Austin was simply a Mike Tomlin yes man. It was all Tomlin's defense that was clearly outdated, and something was just wrong there. The message was gone. The objective was gone. Nothing went well for that defense whatsoever last year, stopping the run against the deep passing game. It was not good whatsoever, but you don't need me to tell you that. You guys watched the Steelers just like I did last year. So I think Patrick Graham's an absolutely big upgrade. Second lowest explosive play rate in the league behind only the Vikings. Who's the Vikings defensive coordinator? Brian Flores. What does explosive play rate have to do a lot with? A lot of scheme, a lot of coverages, a lot of really good coaching. I think a lot of the teams that are very high up on the, explosive play rate defensively, so preventing explosive plays, they're all good defensive coordinators. They're all people that have a really good understanding of what they need to do, a good understanding of the matchups that they have in any given game. So I'm excited for Patrick Graham in that regard. This is also the most talent he will ever have by far. That's why you should be excited, for real. The last couple of years in Vegas had a lot of cast-offs. He comes to Pittsburgh. He's going to be with Mike McCarthy. I know I talked a lot about guys who may or may not be with this team, particularly Patrick Queen. I have to imagine TJ Watt's still going to be here. Alex Highsmith's still going to be there. Nick Herbig's still going to be there. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is, probably going to stay with the team at this point. Joey Porter Jr. is still going to be there. Obviously, Cam Hayward's probably going to play another year, although I don't know. I don't expect him to retire, but I guess that's still up in the air. Derek Harmon's going to have another offseason to develop. This is the most pieces by far that Patrick Graham is going to have as a defensive coordinator in at least half a decade. So I think we should all be excited in that regard. This is a guy who has a good philosophy and knows what he's doing. And I'm excited to see how he's going to rotate the pass rushers in and out. Obviously, TJ Watt had his worst year since his rookie year. I want to see a whole lot more of Nick Herbig next season. And I think Patrick Graham is the guy to get Nick Herbig in those favorable positions and get him on the field more. I'd like to see more of a rotation in that regard. And the Steelers, they probably need a safety in this draft. I don't know what Jalen Ramsey's going to do. I wouldn't mind if he went back to play corner. Deshaun Elliott's probably going to come back. But Patrick Graham, like I mentioned last season with Las Vegas, was really good with Jeremy Chin and Jamal Adams. They both turned in pretty solid seasons for the Raiders last year, given the fact that they were complete and total cast-offs and, guys that were pretty much written off by a lot of people. They're viewed entirely differently because of how well they were schemed up, how well they were coached by Patrick Graham. And this is a thought. It's just a thought. I just want everybody to take this with a grain of salt. Remember Landon Roberts, the smaller, physical linebacker for the Steelers? He was their best run defender during the 2024-25 season. Yeah, he went to the Las Vegas Raiders on $1 million deal. If there's anybody that I want back on the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, I need a Landon Roberts back. What does this linebacker room need? They need physicality. They need guys that can stop the run. They need a lot of help in that linebacker room. I mean, just flat out simple. A Landon Roberts would be the guy for that. Get him back in the building. The familiarity with Patrick Graham makes a lot of sense. The familiarity with the Steelers makes a lot of sense. So I understand why people are upset with this whole familiarity thing. I'm sick of hearing it as much as the next guy. But Patrick Graham, I think, deserves a chance from Steelers fans. Patrick Graham is the best hire that I think they could have made logically. I know everybody's going to point to guys like Raheem Morris were still available. At the end of the day, you knew McCarthy was going to hire somebody who he was familiar with. And I've accepted and come to terms with the fact that this team is trying to win this year. They're trying to go, 9-10 wins, make the playoffs, and get bounced in the first round. That is what Art Rooney has deemed as okay and acceptable for this franchise. And Mike McCarthy is a good coach to go ahead and do that. So I don't think anybody should be surprised by this hire of Patrick Graham, but I do think that it deserves a little bit more chance than anybody is willing to give it. Let me know what you guys think of Patrick Graham in the comments down below. Do you like this hire? Do you not like this hire? What do you think he's going to be able to do with guys like TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith? Who are some players you think fit his scheme that he could bring in? I'm down to talk about all of that. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon.